Now, viewer, remember that military aviation is a risky business. These are maneuvers and these are operations often conducted at the extremes of physics and engineering, and therefore accidents can and will happen. It's not the first time that an aircraft has crashed, but the reason why this particular accident has generated a greater degree of scrutiny and attention and media spotlight is because it's the first crash of India's very own Light Combat Aircraft Tejas, and as a result of that, there are lots of rumors, lots of myths that this gives us an occasion to bust and explore a little deeper. I'm joined, have the greatest privilege to be joined by Air Marshal Anil Chopra. He's Director General of the Center for Air Power Studies. He's a former fighter pilot. He's also been in charge of the Air Force's safety wing, so he knows a thing not just about fighter pilots, fighter aviation, flying fighters and ejecting from fighters, but also what it takes to investigate air accidents. Also, our favorite aviation writer, researcher, and someone who's been coming out with amazing books and articles about aviation in the years gone by, Angad Singh. To both of you, very much thanks for being with me and giving us your time. This is a sensitive issue. Air Marshal Chopra, I'll start with you. You're someone who actually holds the distinction of being, I think, the oldest pilot who's ejected from a fighter. So you know what it's like to actually escape from a fighter that has crashed. You've been in the cockpit, you've been behind a desk investigating crashes as well. So my opening question to you, sir, is how do you see this particular crash? It's the first crash of the LCA Tejas.
Shiv, I must say that LCA has been an outstanding aircraft. In 2002, I took over the aircraft systems and testing establishment.
Yes.
Watched the LCA's initial induction very, very closely and subsequently in service. Outstanding record, 8 years of operational service, 23 years of since first flight, first accident. And mind you, all programs in the world, F-35, we have lost more than 10. F-35, we have lost more than 4. The JF-70, some of them actually first flew after the LCA. So, outstanding record. Yes, military aviation has its own dynamics. We just saw the video. Since yesterday we are watching this. The aircraft is coming on finals. It's got its landing gear down, so it's coming on an approach. When you come on approach, the distance from the ground is less. So whatever has to happen, some technical failure, engine, whatever could have happened, the pilot had to, there's not enough time to restart at that time, and he is ejected. And very happy that, he is safe and minor injuries, but also nobody is injured on the ground. But I must mention, let's look at the aircraft itself. It has about 40 of them, as you said, are in service, but more than 50 have been produced. Some of them are being used for testing. More than 200 more will be inducting in a better variant 1A, which has already flown last year. So the aircraft has done international exercises, done various exercises in India. It's done air-to-air firing, it's done air-to-ground, multi-role, swing, wing capability has been shown recently, the Vayu Shakti, and it was right now flying, at an exercise. So outstanding record. Such things do happen. Yes, I must also mention the F-404 engine Gs. It's a tried, tested. It's flying on the F-18 variants. There are 4,000 of them on F-18 variants itself, and they have large numbers on many other, about 7-8 different other aircraft it's flying. So engine otherwise supposed to be very safe, but of course, even in a fully serviceable aircraft, something can go wrong, which will come out clearly in the court of inquiry. Incorrect for us to conjecture at this time, but only to say that it's a great aircraft, and we're looking forward to great years of LCA in the Indian Air Force.
Okay, thanks for that opening comment. Angad, same question to you. Obvious reasons why this particular accident has, drawn so much attention and, all the buzz on social media and beyond. How do you see this? When you heard about this crash, what was your first reaction and how are you reading it, Angad?
My first reaction, Shiv, was to predict exactly what you said.
Yeah.
That it's going to be, frankly, over-scrutinized, and people are going to sort of lose their minds a little bit over the fact that, it's happened to an LCA. And it's been this sort of painful push-pull saga with this aircraft for well over 20 years now. So it's only 23 years since it first flew. But, my instinctive reaction was to anticipate that sort of noise. But like the Air Marshal, I think it's it's premature to speculate on anything right now. And like your opening sequence said, that this is an inherently risky business. It could have been literally any other aircraft that went down on Tuesday, and we wouldn't be having this conversation.
Right.
A single engine aircraft, MiG-21 could, if it eats a bird at low altitude, it's not going to make the runway, and the pilot would punch out. And we wouldn't be discussing it, in this manner. So
true, yeah.
I don't see this as any sort of reflection of the capabilities of the aircraft or its inherent safety. The Air Force has announced an investigation, and they're going to go through probably for better. Not for worse. Yeah. They're going to go through this with a pretty fine-tooth comb, and they're going to look at anything that could have caused this, including upstream factors beyond just what caused the crash. And that'll go into the sort of big book of learning, as it were. In military circles, there's a saying that SOPs are written in blood.
Yes.
And we should be glad that this one wasn't. It will go into future learning, and the pilot's safe, and there were no casualties on the ground. So I think, as crashes go, it's probably the best outcome.
Best outcome, no casualties, pilot safe is an incredible outcome. There's no doubt about that. Marshal Chopra, taking off from what Angad said, obviously whenever a crash happens, it's very rare that there is footage of those final moments. In this particular case, there's this small little mobile phone clip, showing you what happened. I imagine from a investigation perspective, that's very, very valuable, because it's very rare to have, a visual element as far as what is happening. Here you can see the pilot ejecting, you can see the aircraft, you can see roughly what configuration it is in, the landing gear, etc. is down. Can you take us briefly, sir, through what an investigation actually entails? The forensic investigation, the interview with the pilots, etc. What are the steps that are taken to finally reach a conclusion? Because the reason why I want our viewers to know this is because there is this, apart from the scrutiny, there is this great hurry to speculate on what may have caused the crash based on very little, early information, sir.
Yeah, Shiv, see, nowadays, we are lucky or whatever you may say, social media is very active. Large number of people are taking pictures of approach in Delhi airport and in various other places. So you have a lot of people who are taking pictures. And we've seen many accidents, including the JF-17 in Pakistan, where the whole thing had been video recorded. So there is a lot of evidence, additional evidence, which comes very handy, as you rightly pointed out, that here is an aircraft on approach, it's going straight to the level, it is not in a maneuver, it's not spun into the ground, nothing like that has happened. So all that is very, very good. Secondly, big advantage is that the pilot is absolutely safe and normal, and he will be able to, by now, would have told a lot of information. And the third is that black box, the FDR, that is, wouldn't be safe because the large parts of the aircraft are looking visible, and therefore the FDR is safe. So actually what happens is immediately when an accident takes place, there is a flight safety directorate of the Air Force which gets into action immediately. An advanced team of specialists who are specializing in aircraft investigation, they are sent immediately by air to the site. They quickly take charge of the materials on the ground, which have already been secured by the local police and the Air Force police, and they take pictures of everything. They take, some recordings they do with the eyewitnesses. They talk to a large number of people. So they quickly, build up evidence and information, because before the actual court of inquiry team gets established, which normally takes about 2 days, for them to come, somebody has already done a lot of homework on behalf of that, court of inquiry team. So a lot of information would already be known. If at all there was a problem with the engine, the pilot would have known. He would have had some indication. After all, he decided to eject in a straight and level flight. That means he obviously would know a lot about what's the state of the aircraft, and he would have told the initial investigation. But of course, there are hundreds of other parameters once you have to milk the FDR and etc. Then only can you finally establish the cause. And it's not only the cause. You have to then take calls on the remedial action. Sometimes in the initial investigation, if you find that there's something critical for the rest of the fleet, you could then advise the Air Force to take necessary precautionary measures or do some checks on the other aircraft. So there is a process very well established all over the world, especially in Indian Air Force, ever since Indian Air Force was formed. So this is how the sequence of events will take place.
Angad, much has been made about the Tejas' safety record, which is of course a fact. 23 years of flawless flight since that first flight. 8 years since squadron service began. How do you read those numbers? This is a business where there's no room for sentiment. In your reporting, in your interactions, with the squadrons, what has the Tejas' safety record been like?
Shiv, I must mention to you that, it's you could be having just 4 aircraft and not had a single accident. They would have.
Marshal Chopra, I'll come right back to you. That question was for Angad. I'm coming right back to you. That question was for Angad. Yeah.
Oh, right.
I'm just coming to you right after that. Yeah. Angad.
Shiv, in my unsentimental view, frankly, I think too much is being made of safety records of any aircraft. We opened this segment by saying that this is an inherently risky business. Some of the finest aircraft in the history of military aviation or aviation have suffered horrible accidents in their design and development. The fact that the Tejas didn't is I would say lucky, certainly.
Yeah.
But it's not something we should be afraid of. I mean, that's the whole point of being on the cutting edge. Is you need to be pushing the envelope and you need to be taking, I grant you, calculated risks. But let me put it another way. If 10 years ago we'd had an LCA crash during supersonic testing, I personally wouldn't have been, too perturbed by that. It would have been an unfortunate cost paid in service of developing a national capacity.
Very, very interesting. Marshal Chopra, coming back to you, last round of questions to the both of you. Now an investigation will take place. The probe will go into all those details that you just listed out before a report is submitted, along with what I imagine are recommendations, if any, for the Air Force. But, I want to get into something a little deeper, because it's valuable to have someone like you who's been inside the cockpit, also investigated things. When a crash takes place, what happens in squadrons? What is the mood like in squadrons? In this particular case, like Angad said, and I agree with him, it was the best possible outcome. No casualties on the ground, the pilot is safe. But what happens in a squadron when a crash takes place?
Immediately when a crash takes place, the first thing is to find out if the pilot is safe. The flight commander takes charge of the situation. The CEO, maybe CEO or the flight commander will get into the helicopter with the doctors. They'll go to the landing site, pick up the pilot, see everything is good. So first, another team will go and, of course, secure the aircraft area so that nobody touches the evidence, and so that the court of inquiry can happen smoothly. But in the squadron, once the pilot is safe, the family is informed. The family members of the CEO's wife and others will go down to the lady's house just to show that all is okay, your husband is fine, and he's just going to join back. Often in the evening we would have a drink in the bar with this boy. If he's already joined back, good. If not, he is still in the hospital because there'll be some initial investigation. You will all get together, have some kind of a drink, and say, what the hell, we are all right, and we have to get back to flying. Normally, the aircraft will not be grounded. Next day, the squadron will fly absolutely normally. It's very important for our operational unit to quickly get back into the operational frame of mind. These things are part of our lives. We have lost very dear friends, postmates, squadron mates, and life still goes on. I remember the day I ejected, they came to the hospital because I had a little shoulder injury, and the doctors wouldn't let me go to the squadron. So they brought a cake, and they cut a cake. They made us cut a cake in the hospital while we were still lying down to say, okay, another birthday, another life. And we, go on, and the boys outside opened a bottle of champagne, and that's sort of had fun outside. So this kind of, traditions are there, but we get back to action, and that is the core issue. Yes. And
the action never stops. That's the, that's the thing. On the day and maybe for a couple of days, there's a luxury of, doing this kind of thing. But fighter pilots always have to be on duty. Angad, a final question before I let the both of you go. there is no doubt, the Lord knows that the Tejas program has been a troubled one. It's taken its time, but now it's been 8 years in service. You've always been a strong advocate of getting these aircraft out there, getting them into service, and then doing what you need to do with the aircraft, improving them, tweaking them, etc., etc. But getting that experience going is very, very important. And like you said, the best possible outcome. I want to ask you, as someone who spent a lot of time with pilots, with these aircraft, with these squadrons, given the history of trouble, the kind of suspicion that has existed between HAL and the Air Force, etc., concerning the Tejas, what has the Air Force and the pilots' experience been like with the Tejas? What do squadron pilots now say about the Tejas?
I mean, to put it in the most simple terms, I don't think anyone who's been operating MiG-21s and MiG-27s is going to complain about jumping into a Tejas.
Yeah.
It's that simple. I mean, if we look at the two squadrons that are in service today, 45 and 18, that are flying the Tejas today. They come from MiG-21 and MiG-27 legacy, and for those guys, for those squadrons, it's a huge leap forward. The LCA, so it really is that simple.
I love that. Yeah.
To just follow on from Air Marshal Chopra's point, not only will the squadrons get back to work ops normal tomorrow or today, the CO will lead from the front and will fly the first sortie and so on. But I don't think it's lost on any of these commanders and squadrons that they are writing the book for this aircraft. So the learning value and the findings from this incident, these are things that are going to hold us as a force and as a developer, as a nation that develops military aircraft in good stead down the line.
I'm going to end on that very, very positive note. Great takeaways. We've also learned a lot. I hope our viewers, many of whom had asked me to do a show like this to demystify and answer some of these questions, I hope you've taken away a great deal as well. Angad and Air Marshal Chopra, always a pleasure. Thank you so much for your time.